Okay, everyone, I'm just calling you now, if anybody's interested in hearing a little bit about the vision, to come into the main body of the cathedral. Thank you. Okay, well, I think we'll begin. It's very good of you to join me for this. I won't keep you too long, I hope, but I just wanted to outline some of the work that's been done over the last year on refreshing or renewing our vision. And I hope that some of you, or all of you hopefully, have managed to get one of these today. If not, there are some still around, and it is also available on the website, so please do find it there as well. But hopefully there are enough of these around today to pick one up. So this week I was away from the cathedral, and I was leading a retreat for Anglican clergy in Florida. And it was a fascinating time to be with them. Following the new president's stream of executive orders, you will know that the Bishop of Washington, Bishop Buddy, addressed the president during a service in the cathedral on behalf of the vulnerable, the minorities, the refugees, and the immigrants, and those who are scared. She has received many letters of thanks, but of course she's also received many death threats. She's received letters telling her that she ought to be deported, and the president himself said she brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. She was nasty in tone and not compelling or smart. He went on to say that this so-called bishop and her church owe the public an apology. For the record, I wrote to the Bishop of Washington to let her know of our support for her preaching the gospel. And what all this has led to, of course, is in the United States, the Episcopal Church being seen by some as the enemy of the regime. And the clergy I met were very fearful for some of their people. Some were asking if it was safe to go to church. Parishioners were asking the clergy if it was safe to go to church. Some are fearful of their churches being attacked for being seen as liberal. And when I was there, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, rather appropriately referred to as ICE, began roundups in Miami. 3 coaches pulling up in a supermarket car park near to me, and everyone suddenly running away. It was the most extraordinary sight. Conversations were had with the bishop and clergy as to the warrants needed for churches to be searched and so on. And I'm telling you all this because it all felt very tense and uncertain and, yes, scary. And what I thought about when I was there amongst our fellow Anglican Christians was this word vision can mean 2 things. It can mean the aspiration or the hopes or the future that we work towards, something out there that we make our way towards. But it can also mean our vision now, the way we look out on the world, the eyes through which we see people and relationships and the things that matter, and the eyes with which we look out on the vulnerable and poor, eyes, we hope, attuned to the way God sees the world and us and God's creation. So I hope that when I talk about this word today, we will understand that word in both ways. It is the future we're trying to make a reality and the eyes through which we are trying to look now. And what we are called to do or say when what we see needs challenge or comfort or support. And I've come very much with this in my heart, as you can tell, because I felt it very strongly as I was out there. Please remember the Episcopal Church in your prayers and all those that they are trying to stand up for at the moment. It was my hope that about a year into my time here, we would have articulated a refreshed vision for the cathedral's next 5 years. And this is a small summary of it, but it is important for you to know that this isn't just it. There is more. In fact, there's just over a 20-page operational plan that spells out the objectives, all the various things we want to achieve under these titles, and the time frame that we're setting for each of them, as well, of course, as the ownership of each project. That's important for both operational planning and, of course, financial budgeting. It is a vision that's engaged chapter, congregation at the annual meeting, staff, various stakeholders. And what became clear as we listened to each other is that we were being drawn to the image of Southwark Cathedral making space. That felt right. It's an image that is generous and open and befriending, and that is true to the Southwark Cathedral soul, that has always wanted to make space for those for whom society or the church has discriminated against or forgotten or scapegoated. So this is a vision that lays out the sort of cathedral we want to be, and hopefully one that doesn't just make nice noises, but makes some impact. I hope that in a world which can be scary for so many, we might be agents of some re-enchantment, because the story we live in will be the story we live out. And the way that we see with our eyes now will matter. So there aren't great dollops of answers in here to all the church's problems in the early 21st century, but there are some responses, and they are following, as I say, a sense of this theme of making space, which we found to be so important. In the Eucharist, of course, that we've just celebrated, Jesus tells us in what he does that he wants our company. And this is an outline of how we will try to accept that invitation, making the love of God visible. And I hope that this will not be seen as any sort of gimmick. We're not interested here, I hope, in any what you might call fast food religion. We're interested in slow and healthy nutrition. And that means a bit of patience with each other. It also means patience with ourselves sometimes. But it also means that we need to keep our aspirations high. We are now, of course, a charity, as all cathedrals are. And we have quite rightly a lot of governance and compliance issues that we have to attend to day by day, of which there is much. But sometimes I find that the vocabulary that can come from the national church can start to sound a little bit over-corporate and functional. And we know here that we must work efficiently and with secure processes and procedures, and my goodness me, if we've seen that over the last months, we've seen nothing else. I mean, this is so important and vital. And excellent work has been done here over the last months and years. But at the same time, we are not running Toyota or the NatWest. We are a cathedral. We are a Christian church. And because we are a Christian church, we take hospitality and friendships and partnerships very seriously. Those with local organizations and charities, with communities of other faiths, and with all people of goodwill with whom we share values, or who are up for a conversation about those values, or about the things that deserve our attention and which need pursuing for the common good. I really believe, and I said this when I was interviewed, very scared and almost shaking for 2 days as I was interviewed, amongst others for this ministry, I said that cathedrals are sacred space, but they are also common ground. And this is something this cathedral has celebrated over many years. So as we listened and as we talked, we decided that we are here to make space for love. And I don't mean that in the Hollywood sense or in those really irritating heart-floating emojis. I mean in the courageous, often sacrificial, radical sense with which Christ used that word, reminding us that it is the most important word of all. When, of course, Jesus was asked which was the most important commandment of all, he said, love. Love, he said, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and, don't forget, love your neighbour as yourself. So we took this as our guide, and you'll find those words as the first paragraph in the vision from Matthew's Gospel. This was the compass from which we held everything else. This was our guide, and heart, mind, and soul became the three pathways, for want of a better word, with which we wanted to make space for love here. So heart refers to a commitment we want to make to social justice. And when I arrived here and I spoke to so many people in my first 4 or 5 months, one of the things that came out in nearly every conversation I had with staff, with members of the congregation, with my clergy colleagues, was a desire to rejuvenate our commitment to social justice. So here it is, under heart. And this will include a program of events, awareness raising, exhibitions, learning events, the training of staff and volunteers, working with charities and others in supporting victims of an injustice. and we will focus on an area of social justice each year. And this year, we made it modern slavery and exploitation. This is a subject that quite often people don't know a great deal about, but it's happening right next door to you. Wherever you live, it's happening, particularly in London. And we have, for instance, I hope you've seen this, if not, it's by the door as you leave the cathedral today. Here is this year's programme for modern slavery. And you'll see in it lots of talks and events and exhibitions, but there are some things not mentioned in here, which I'm going to just mention, but they're not mentioned in here because we don't particularly want to go overly public about it for very sensitive reasons. But as well as all the sort of awareness building and training that we've already started with our staff, there are some workshops that we are doing at the moment in partnership with Hestia, which is a local charity that works with victims of modern slavery. And these are happening in the cathedral. They've been happening every week for the last few weeks with women who have been freed from domestic servitude, who are traumatized and rather unable to communicate about what they've experienced. But they're coming to the cathedral, and they've been working with various partners. For instance, they've been doing some learning how to crochet and knit. And in that space together, with a facilitator from the charity, they've started to open up and talk with each other. And they have, we planned 3 of these and to initiate this workshop. And they're finding it so helpful that they've asked to do more. We've got other workshops planned for them, including a walk down the river, where again people can sometimes open up. We're going to give them the cathedral to do some photography together, and so on. So this isn't all stated here, but it is also an important part of the programme that's carrying on. So we're not just raising awareness of people like us, but we are also trying to work with those who have suffered. And if we can help in any way with charities, then that's what we're trying to do. So here is this year's social justice programme, and next year there'll be another one developed. This doesn't mean that we just forget modern slavery next year. I would imagine that there will be continuity, certainly in friendships and partnerships with charities and people that we're working with. I said when I thought about this that this programme ought to be discernible throughout our year, but not dominant, because we've got other things to do as well. But we want to be able to discern our commitment to this subject throughout this year. And so periodically you will find things will come along that will remind us that this is our social justice theme. For instance, the organisation Southwark Against Modern Slavery will come in on quite a few Saturday mornings, set up a stall, and will engage visitors on the subject. We did have one idea which came from Catherine, I think, which was to, well, let's attract their attention, and why don't we do some nail painting in the cathedral? Because, of course, this is one area where modern slavery is very rife. So we are thinking about how we might, get people to really engage with what we're doing. But there are lots of other things envisaged and planned. For instance, art by survivors of modern slavery will go in the cafe. There will be a short, rather sturdy exhibition placed outside with some art and some information about modern slavery in the churchyard, and so on. So do have a look at this, please. And I've been very, very taken by some of the conversations that this has also stirred up in the local area. So Borough Market are wanting to explore with us some workshop we could do on the supply chains for vegetables, for instance, and food. So this is up and running, and this is very much part of our vision that this element of heart will be central. And of course, as you will read in the little preamble to the vision, St. Augustine has a little bit of a place in this vision. We are sitting, of course, in a former priory that followed the rule of St. Augustine. And St. Augustine did always say that charity is no substitute for justice withheld. So justice is very much placed as the heart of the vision. And then there's mind. Mind takes up our commitment to learning, to being a place for honest inquiry and growth. And I use that word honest because I think it's an important word. The church talks a lot about truth. It is not so good at honesty, it seems to me. So we want this to be a place where, in order to grow, we can also express what we're really thinking and feeling and so on. And this means developing learning programs for adults and families and young people and children. And it means ensuring that children and families are ministered to with a renewed passion and imagination. It means Christian adults can realize that baptism wasn't, just a one-off. It's actually for life, and that faith means formation and a growing and expanding in our understanding and our commitment. It also means that people of no faith or honest doubt can feel at home here and be taken seriously and engaged on equal terms and be part of a mutual learning about faith and ethics and lots of issues of common concern that we have. And so you'll see the other programme that came out not too long ago, the red one, where this is our winter-spring programme of events and courses that are there simply to help us here deepen and explore our Christian faith. I suppose when I heard not too long ago somebody describe faith as a questioning joy, that really struck a nerve. I would love our learning to be understood here as a questioning joy. It's part of the joy of our faith that we are able to ask our questions and pursue them. And then there is soul, which refers to our commitment, as it were, to the inner life and to the ways in which that inner life is enriched and expanded, our commitment to beauty, to the accessibility and the resonance of our liturgy. I always prefer the word resonance to relevance. I think faith is not so much about relevance as resonance, those things which are perennially there in us because we're simply human beings, and they always will be. And this therefore means securing our commitment to excellent music, to the musical education of our choristers, to the celebration of the arts, and to community and visitor engagement, because the soul isn't just something that is an individual little atom. As we know, souls grow when they're in company. And so community and local community is also at the heart of our talk and our pursuit of the human soul. So you can see in this little summary some of the themes that emerge when we start talking about heart, mind and soul, and together this is how we want to make space for some love. And we don't blush saying that. Having just been where I've been, I think this world is going to need it quite a lot in the coming years. And you will find right at the beginning of the vision here, the 4 values that have emerged, that we wanted to, as it were, provide the scaffolding of all that we're doing here. And these were integrity, justice, kindness, and courage. Those were four things I certainly was seeing very evidently when I was with clergy over in the States this week. Integrity, kindness, justice, and courage. As long as this cathedral has been here, well over 1,000 years, it's relied, of course, on its support of friends, not only people who worship here, but surrounding local people. And I hope that in order to help people understand who and what we are here, that you will be our ambassadors, that you will take this little brief in your little red suitcase like some minister and go out and share it and talk about it and be able to speak about it. I hope that making space for love with heart, mind, soul is easy enough to initiate a conversation if people ask about the cathedral. We will have challenges, of course, not least financial ones. You will have seen Peterborough Cathedral's latest challenges. Peterborough is not alone. There are several cathedrals now that are really struggling and will struggle very seriously over the next 2 to 3 years. We're working hard to make sure that we won't be one of them. But we will need people's effort and their serious commitment. If we really believe in this, then this will mean all of us committing to it in every possible way we can. And I was so pleased today to hear about the ways in which we can do that. But you will see that all this is being propped up by 4 foundations. First of all, committed, resourced, valued people. Maintaining this building and the estate, the precinct, so that it's fit for purpose and well maintained. That we have good communications and good IT. This is so essential at the moment to be able to communicate well. And also a sustainable and developing financial base, which of course is absolutely crucial. We don't want to stand still. We don't want to find just the resources to stay as we are. We want to have loyalty to a future. And this, of course, will always have a cost. And to be strong and effective, we need a good financial foundation. And good work is being done by our new Chief Operating Officer and Financial Officer and Chapter and Finance Committee to make sure that this is in place. I think we have ambition. And if some of this sounds, well, is this terribly new? Perhaps it isn't terribly new. I just didn't want us to have some churchy-sounding initiative that makes us all slightly groan inside. I just wanted us to come back to basics, to come back to that person who went up to Jesus one day and said, you know, what's it all about? What's the most important thing of all? And he got an answer. And that answer is what I think we're trying to take up here and to make some reality. So that's my little introduction to our vision. I'll be very happy to take any questions or comments, should that be helpful. Might be difficult to hear you, but could you, Michael? Thank you, that would be helpful. Just give you a second to think about what you'd like to say while Mike gets the mic. He'll kill me if he hears me calling him Mike. Have people seen these? Have you had sight of these? Again, they are all on the website. And if you don't subscribe, by the way, to the weekly newsletter, please do, because that's another way in which you can keep in touch with a lot of this and many other things too. So here is Michael with the mic. Any questions or comments? Yeah.
You mentioned the importance of sound finances. I assume we're kind of okay at the moment, aren't we, the cathedral, money-wise? So we're not in the grips of an emergency where we need to raise funds quickly or anything like that?
Well, we do always need to raise funds, and new sources of funding are important. I think 60% of cathedrals are running in deficit at the moment. And we are working very hard that will not be our case in, well, hopefully by the end of 2026.
Okay. So are we in deficit at the moment?
Yes.
Or? Okay, thank you.
And have been for quite a while. But things have improved, and we're working to improve them. So, yeah. We are not blind to the challenges, but as I say, there are many cathedrals really in very serious circumstances at the moment. And Peterborough was the first to be honest about it. It's an expensive business, buildings like this and everything else that goes with our ministry. What catches us out is when the unseen comes along. So a fire alarm system in the cathedral suddenly stops working, and then you have a bill for £80,000. That's the sort of thing that will throw you. Yeah.
Right, first of all, thank you very, very much, because I used to work for a charity, and I absolutely hated it when they produced vision documents, because it was so full of, well, bullshit.
That's a theological term,
Yeah, and
used by St. Augustine.
Looking at this document, I have not had to go through it writing rude remarks. So, thank you for that. I'd also like to make a comment about, there is mention of accessibility, particularly around the liturgy. But I'd also like to put in a plea, let us not lose the mystery, because I think that is what attracts a lot of people, particularly to cathedrals, that God cannot be summarized in simple words or any words, but we need the ways of somehow getting us closer to God without making it seem as if it's something that's easily defined.
That's really helpful, thank you. I don't think anybody, when they were using the word accessible with liturgy, meant any dumbing down. I think quite often it's just sort of simple things to make sure that they know where to get a service sheet. Or, for instance, you may have noticed just recently next to the Lord's Prayer, we now have other languages just to encourage people to pray it in their own language. That's one way in which we're acknowledging the fact that not everybody here is a first English speaker on a Sunday morning. Little things like that are about, and I'm totally with you. I keep banging on that God is not the object of our knowledge, but the cause of our wonder. And if that's the case, then liturgy, first of all, ought to have a sense of wonder and mystery to it. Thank you for that, though. It's helpful. Any other comments? Or? Yeah.
I just want to say, I for one, and I'm sure most here, or probably all, really rejoice in what you've said today. This seems to be an inspired vision, and one that I'm sure, if we all commit to it, will deliver something really good for the community, for us all and everything else. So, and I want to say thank you to the leadership you've given, to the chapter and everybody else involved. And I hope all the rest of us agree with that, because it really is so refreshing to hear a dean saying the kind of things you've just been saying. So thank you all very much, and good luck.
Well, Thank you, and your £10 waiting at the back. Thank you. No, that means a lot because, being, by the way, it's not just me, but obviously when you start this ministry, you feel it's pretty much on you sometimes, and I thought that the one thing that I could do was just to interrogate myself as to why I think I get out of bed in the morning to do this, and why we all do. And I've really enjoyed working with my colleagues, with Chapter, and with all the other people that I've had conversations with on it, because all I've felt actually is encouragement to get on with it. And that's been a wonderful thing. And there is something very liberating about putting down what is at your heart. And I don't just mean that as an individual, but in this place. And so, yeah, thank you. That's great to hear. Yes.
Can I get
Oh, sorry.
you mentioned your letter of support to the Bishop of Washington.
Yes.
I know that a lot of us in this congregation, whom I've talked to, feel great admiration and affection for this very brave woman. And I just wondered, I'm sure a lot of us would like to express personally to her our support and admiration, and I wondered whether there was any way either that we could do it as a congregation or individually, because I suspect quite a lot of us would like to do so.
I would be very happy to write to her again following this meeting, should you like me to say that
I would, yes.
This is what the congregation asked me to do. I also, by the way, said, as I'm sure many people are saying to her, but I still said it, that she was welcome into our pulpit here at any time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Actually, I was going to say more or less the same thing, really, in relation to what you were talking about, because, as you said, it doesn't bode well for everybody. And so, yeah, there is a petition going around in support of her, which I've signed, and I can send it to anyone who wants to sign it. But the church as a whole, it's really how we respond. But I think it'd be great if you could personally write to her again on behalf of everybody.
I will do it first thing in the morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to say, Philip and I were talking just before we began to listen to you, Dean Mark, and what we were saying was, what I was saying in particular, I don't think it was an accident that she was a woman who spoke out, who dared to put herself above a certain kind of parapet. Maybe we could also reflect on the joy of speaking out as women in different contexts, and to recognize that as something that, in a way, the nation is feeling as well, because it has been women nationally in the church who have voiced concerns, very deep concerns, about the conduct of certain male priests. And they too have spoken out in a way that I think we need to recognize and honor.
Thank you.
At all times.
Thank you for that very much. I mean, the courage of standing there that day and saying what she did in that way, I think is phenomenal. The only other person who I know personally who has had a similar experience, of course, was Jean Robinson, who, as the first openly partnered gay bishop, has told me himself of how the FBI wouldn't allow him to stay the same night in a hotel room on 2 consecutive nights. He had to keep moving rooms because he had so many death threats against him. And indeed, when he was made a bishop, was in a bulletproof vest underneath his vestments. And that vest stayed on him for many months. So we owe a lot as a church to those who are courageous, not only for themselves, but for the integrity of our church. And I certainly count her as one of them, and many women, as you've just pointed out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I wonder, in a way of engaging with the congregation, when we talk about love and empowerment, whether or not we need to capture a lot of more individual stories. Because by doing that, one, you would understand more about what the congregation is thinking, and in a sense, not standing still. Yeah. So it'd be really important to know if you would ever consider doing these sort of short sessions with members of the congregation, you know, whether it's a monthly or 6 monthly time, just to pick up on how individual voice people think. And then you can build, you know, huge archive, new knowledge on that. And it will probably keep all of us in tune to know what each are thinking and what, you know, the journey should be like.
I like that idea.
Yeah. Thank
Making
you.
space for it. Yeah. Can we talk more about that? I'd like to hear you. I'd like to hear how you see that. But yeah, could you drop me a note, drop me an email, and we'll have a coffee over that.
This isn't a subject I know anything at all about, but it does worry me. And you referred to our communications, and I'm just wondering, is thought being given to what methods we are using to communicate what social media we are using, and should we be using it all?
Yes, exactly. And I can imagine that you might be referring to X and should cathedrals be using that at the moment. That is a live conversation amongst us. Some churches and cathedrals are stopping using it. Some are continuing, not happy that they are, but can't find an immediate replacement. Certainly the social media question is an important one at the moment. We are still at the moment using X, I believe, but we've also gone on to Blue Sky, and we are in communication with other churches and cathedrals as to what they are moving to in order to get, you know, the widest possible communication. What do you have a view on it?
Well, personally, no, because I've never used social media and I never intend to. But from what I hear a lot that, and my son, who's a head teacher in Tower Hamlets, has said that he doesn't use X anymore, and that a lot of his colleagues don't. And I think I heard him refer to Blue Sky.
Yes.
So it worries me, but I'm not an expert on it myself. But what I hear worries me.
Yes, yes. Do people here have strong views about whether the cathedral should come off using X, for instance? Do you think we should? Yes. Yeah. I will certainly take that back too. And this is exactly why meetings like this can be very helpful. Yeah.
Mark, I've been worshipping here for 21 years, and during that time, I think I'm right in saying we've never had a 5-year plan. I think this 5-year plan, we must make it work. I think the topics we're discussing during the 5-year plan are very important in today's world. As I see it, we have to make it work. Maybe have to be some slight amendments along the way, but we could become a beacon of hope with the church going through a very difficult period. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, and it's a very important reminder. One thing I've become very conscious of, actually, in my first year here, is that Southwark Cathedral matters to you and to me, but it also matters to an enormous amount of people who rarely come here. But the fact that we exist and that we model a Christian way in the way we try to, i.e. with honesty and some graciousness towards one another, and allowing people to love the people they want to love, and so on, trying to, as it were, be unafraid to reason but unashamed to adore. That modelling at the moment for many people is really important, and even if they live miles away or even abroad, the fact that we are doing it and offering it is of real import to them. And I don't want to call them the suburbs of Southwark Cathedral, because it's an awful image, but you see what I'm saying, that they rarely may come here, but the fact that we are here matters. And it's something I've become very, very aware of over the last year, and it's good to be reminded of it. Thank you. I don't want to keep you from your roast chicken for long, but are there any other urgent comments or questions? Yeah.
I'd just like to say that I've been coming
It's
here.
not on, sorry.
I've been coming here for the same length of time as you, and I've been worshipping in a Christian church since I was nothing. I've been a regular worshipper. I have never been so welcomed by the congregation and by the clergy until I came here. This is the most friendly place I have ever been to in church, and I just want you all to know that. I have felt so welcomed and so loved. It's quite extraordinary.
Well, thank you, Deborah. For those of you who don't know, when I was a curate, when I'd just been ordained and knew absolutely nothing but thought I knew absolutely everything, I was at St. John's Wood Church, and Deborah became like a surrogate mother to me in the parish, as I made all my mistakes, and somehow the church had to cope with them. But it's very good to have you here, Deborah, and I'm pleased that you found the place welcoming and friendly. And I do hope that, as I said, that with this vision, that the vision that is both a hope but also a way of looking at each other and at the world, I hope that we will now all be ambassadors for that. And one of the ways that we will be ambassadors is by welcoming and being hospitable and showing some kindness. And I make no apology for using those very old-fashioned sounding words, because I think they're key to the Christian faith. Good. So thank you so much for staying today. I hope to see you maybe at 6 o'clock at the carol service, but I feel very, very proud to be the Dean of this place, and I hope that this is one way in which I can show it. Thank you.